Hey guys, it's Friday, so it's time for another deck. Back on April 20th, I took out a mono green deck for, just for a joke. I flicked it together in a couple seconds for a laugh, because obviously it's 420 and all that, and mono green. But this week, I think I'm going to take it out and actually play it and see how it performs over the long haul. Made a few tweaks to it. So let's go ahead and look at the mana base. First things, 25 forests. Nothing to see here. We're playing, this is my first mono-colored deck on the channel. No tap lands, no mana bases, just bam, 25 lands. The reason we're playing 25 is because of the curve, and because the real reason to play mono green, at least in my opinion, is this card right here. Primal Bellow. It's a 1 mana instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each forest you control. It's probably better in an aggro deck where you can just get like +4/+4 at instant speed, like a better giant growth. Who knows? But I've got some big fat tramplers, and I really want to play around with that. So we're also going to play 4 copies of Prey Upon in the deck. It's really the only removal green has that's efficiently costed. I mean, Hunt the Weak is the same thing, but it's 4 mana, so you're paying 3 mana for a +1/+1 counter. I mean, it's sorcery speed, it's vulnerable to removal, bounce, all that sort of stuff. So I mean, it's not good removal, but if we're playing mono green, then this is what we got to play. So we're going to play all 4 of those. And those are our 7 1 mana cards. Let's move on up to 2 mana. Genesis Hydra kind of counts as a 2 mana card, so we'll talk about it now because of the X value there. But it's really a 9 mana card in this deck if you want to get full value, because we have cards that go up as high as 7 mana. So if we cast it for 9 mana, X will equal 7, and we can get any card in our deck from the top 7. If we cast it for 6 and hit a blocker, we may miss. There are going to be times when you're going to want to cast this thing for, a 5 or 4 even, depending on what you're up against. But, I mean, the real reason is to top deck this thing late in the game when you got 12 lands and you can't finish. This guy gets you at 12 lands, it'll get you a 10/10 plus something big to go alongside it. It's also good against counter magic because the way the ability is worded, the ability resolves, whether or not it's countered because it's a cast trigger. So, I mean, Genesis Hydra is a good mana sink, so we're going to play one of those. This is the card that I ended up adding after a discussion with Elk while I was cooking supper. He and I were just tweeting back and forth about the list. The deck really needs something low on the curve, just something to block with, attack with, something that it can cast before 4 mana. Because if you look at the curve down there, it's pretty flat. So I went with Jade Mage because I think early in the game it's a Goblin Piker. It's going to be a Goblin Piker probably 98% of the time you play it. But the other 2%, at least you have something to do with your mana. Or, it can let you go wide and create enough tokens so that one unblocked token can get a Primal Bellow to win you the game. But, I don't expect much more out of this card than a Goblin Piker. I really don't. I just need something to do on the early turns. So that's why she's in there. She has, her activated ability will have a little bit of upside. Let us chump block against aggro, but she's a Piker. We're going to play Elvish Visionary again because of the curve, and it replaces itself. So we get a nice chump blocker. We get to draw a card and just something to do on 2 mana, or when you have early in the game, obviously you want to cast it on turn 2, but also you got 7 mana, you play a 5-drop. You just drop the scale alongside it. It's just a way to spend all your mana every single turn by having a 2-drop. That's what the mana curve is all about. Obviously, we've only got 4 3-drops, and here they are. Cultivate. We're going to try and ramp up into the big fat dudes. So this will do that for us. Pretty obvious, I guess, in a top heavy deck like this one. We're also going to play both copies of Masked Admirers just as a little bit of card advantage. It draws a card when it comes in, has decent power at 3, and we can also get it back later. And having more 2-drops means that we're more likely to be able to activate this ability where we pay green. When we cast 6, 7, 8 drops, we're not going to be able to afford the extra 2 mana. But if we cast a 2-drop, we'll have 2 mana left over that we can sink into getting Masked Admirers back and get some card advantage that way. So, I mean, we're playing a monocolor deck, so options are limited. And also we're playing Grook's Pack Leader. So this guy has the 3 power necessary to trigger that thing over and over again. I'm going to play 3 copies of Nylea's Disciple out of a possible 4. It's a 4 mana 3/3, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to your devotion to green, which is the number of green mana symbols in the mana costs of permanents you control. So if you look at Nylea's Disciple there, the cost is 2 colorless mana and 2 green mana. That right there counts as devotion of 2, so whatever you've got on the battlefield, it just counts all that and you gain a bunch of life. It's pretty good against aggro on its own. You get a 3/3 blocker and 2 life on an empty board. But again, it triggers the pack leader. You know, it's a little bit of insurance, and you know, it's just again we're playing mono green, so options are limited, and I think it's good enough to play at 3 copies. Going to play both copies of Arbor Colossus. This is probably your strongest play after a Cultivate. You know, turn 4, drop a 6/6 reach with upside. It's got 3 devotion for the Nile's Disciple. So yeah, he's a big dude, and he adds to the deck's removal suite because his ability can kill a flyer. So, I mean, he's just a big, you know, we're getting into the part of the curve now where it's just big, stupid green dudes. Not really much to say. We're playing Grook's Pack Leader, big, stupid green dude. Not as big as you should get for 4 mana, or I'm sorry, for 5 mana. He's just a 4/4. But his ability lets you play other big, stupid dudes and draw cards and maintain the card advantage. So we're going to play him. 4/4 is not small by any stretch, especially, I mean, we've got these 5/5 drops here, so that after we cultivate, we can drop one of these guys, hopefully. We're also going to play the Soul Zendikar. It's another 6/6 reach. It costs 1 extra mana as compared to Arbor Colossus, but it has those nice activated abilities there. So we're going to play that. We're definitely going to play Terra Stomper. I haven't decided on a thumbnail yet, but I think I just did, because this right here is this is the epitome of mono green beats. You know, you can't counter it, so screw you blue. And it's an 8/8 trample for just 6 mana. We can get this thing on the 5th turn if we cultivate. So he's a big guy, and he tramples, and if you can successfully aim a Primal Bellow at him, then you're just going to win the game. You know, presuming your opponent doesn't have Vapor Snag, but I mean that is probably the worst card you can see from the other side of the table when you're playing mono green. At least this particular style of mono green, the tap out for 1 creature every turn deck. So if we run into Vapor Snag, we're probably just going to lose. And then there's my buddy Palaka Worm. Thank you, Mobius, for the haiku. That's why I kind of decided to play mono green. I was like, yeah, back to Palaka. That's a good idea. So you know, I went back to the whole mono green deck that I had just dicked around with. If you're wondering, the list I initially posted, these 3 Jade Mages used to be a 2nd Hydra, there was a Hunter's Prowess, and a Vengevine, but they're all 4 mana and up. And I mean, the deck it made 1 play a turn. It didn't have enough 2-drops. There really isn't much, honestly. Even Jade Mage, like I said, 98% of the time, it's going to be a Goblin Piker. There's not much in the pool in mono green that you can get for 3 or less mana that's going to have an impact. So, you know, I just chose the mana sink as opposed to playing the 4, 5, and 9 mana cards, we'll say. So, yeah, we're going to take this out for a spin, play a couple of episodes. Let me know what you think of the list. And maybe we'll tweak it as the week goes on. Yeah, hope you enjoy it, and we'll get some gameplay out as soon as we can.